If I have it on this screen, then
you has 2 screens. Jon has 2 screens. Ken has 2 screens. Episode. I'm gonna go ahead and post this on the guild. Episode 122. We are recording on YouTube right now. By the way, welcome.
Hi, YouTube.
Yay! Episode 122. Elitism.
And I got the pop-up chat. Oh shit! I forgot to post. Give me a second here. Damn it!
Pop out chat.
Oh wait, we're recording on YouTube. Great time to sing songs and violate copyright.
Hooray!
For the city of
No reason. Short people got no reason. All right, we got the live chat going up here. Go!
I've lost the link again.
Crud. Feathers. What are we going to do right now? We need to... It should have been posted on Twitter. So let's go ahead and take a look at the old twit. The old twits. And now the most recent Twitter stream should be...
I started a live stream on YouTube. Yeah.
I started a live stream on YouTube. So I'm trying to... Yeah, Twitter is so awesome that you can just click right on to, start playing it. I want to share this. Share. Here it is. Yay, I've got it. Now we're going on the Good Board Ugly Guild. And we're going to post...
Elitism.
General
People
news.
like Andy have elitism.
It's not elitism if I know everyone who plays my games are better.
I believe that would be the definition.
Live stream now!
What?
Come participate. Be a part of this. All right, I have...
Someday I'm going to fake a kidnapping while we're doing this live.
Andy, I'm not at all surprised if the cops come to your house. Maybe they will be able to give you the help you need.
Oh, I'm always scared.
I would
whatever.
not be surprised if nobody is qualified for the help that Andy needs.
Yep. I second that. I often worry about going with my kids into mental health areas for testing because I'm like, what if they find out about me?
Uh-oh.
That's a fair point.
All right, so we got 5 games that we're reviewing. We're going to talk about Outlive, Lignum, Monopoly Game at Dice Forge, and Watson. No, not Watson. Holmes. Innis. Inish is how they pronounce it, I believe, actually, in Celtic or whatever. It means island and like Irish Celtic.
You can even change the review of how to not say Innis.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how to play Innis in 3 hours or less.
3 hours. 3 hours.
I wanted to talk about it.
I can't believe you guys play the game of Innis for that long.
Hey, we went through the special red card deck like 1.5 times.
Yep.
You actually had to shuffle this red card deck. That's ridiculous. And you almost were to the point where there couldn't be any more regions.
Yeah.
You almost explored the entire map.
Yep.
You needed like another table
We kept
to be able to fit that whole map.
Let's play a quick game while they finish up theirs. Let's play Innis. That'll only take an hour.
Yeah, well, they're finishing up. What was it, Lignum?
Yep.
We had just started Lignum. You're like, we'll just play Innis. We'll be done by the time they're done. And then that game of Innis lasted like twice as long as Lignum.
Yep.
Sarah said,
worse than that, I had time to teach and finish Lignum, drive home, pick up Age of Steam, get back, eat pizza, and they still weren't done.
No. The endless
my wife said Ennis is a little bit rules light for a 3-hour game.
Yeah.
That would be a correct statement.
Normally a 3-hour game, but yeah.
The problem was everybody was in this endless Innis.
Yeah, all 4 of us grabbed the victory point shit at some point.
We're in this. Everybody was in this.
We're in this.
In this endless Innis.
In this endless Innis. All right, had to say it. And 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, a podcast about board games. I'm your host, Jon Ixalan. Tonight, I'm being joined by
Jonathan Pierce,
Andrew Dennison,
Trent Ham,
and we got somebody joining us for the first time with the entire reviewing crew, and his name is
David Sandquist.
David was on our power episode, the loss of power. I forget, it was like something happened. Yeah, we
review them all.
Yeah, gotta review. We just got like tons of little 2-player games and a lot of short reviews. But yeah, it was not a normal episode. So welcome, David, to joining us here with our first full episode that you're a part of. I'd also like to quickly thank our sponsor, Game Surplus, bringing the world of board games to you. They are doing a really great job of really what they do more than anything is service. I would say that if you are looking for something, send Carmen an email. He'll be able to find it. The store, it's like that sort of love you get from a little tiny mom and pop store, but you can get that anywhere in the States. Or I guess I don't know if they do any international shipping, but you can get it wherever you're at. You can still get that sort of love you know and deserve. Go check out Game Surplus. Anyway, also yeah the elitist. Yeah, today we're talking about elitism in games. That's our topic for today. So and it was specially asked for by John. So we're so happy to have you back, John. Hey, John, if you could describe this podcast in one word, what would it be?
How to shut down Andy.
All right. So actually got some really big news for you guys. This episode should be dropping on live. Like, first of all, if you're on YouTube right now, you may already know this because I've shared this stuff out on Twitter right now. We are currently live streaming on YouTube. So if you haven't already hopped on the GBU bandwagon, come see us. We record Thursday nights at about 8:45 Central Standard Time. Come and drop in, talk to us on that pop-out chat. I've got it up right here, and I believe at this point I'm still like the only person that has ever. No. I think we had a little bit of an interchange here, but we still haven't got anybody joining us just yet. Anyway, jump onto YouTube. And you can find out what we think. You can share your own opinion and kind of participate that way. You can participate without necessarily having to be on here, with the sting of social contact with people being able to see and hear you. Anyway, got a pretty big thing to announce here, though, and that is for the first time ever, The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly is giving away a game to a fan. That's right. We are going to be giving away a full in-shrink board game that I just tweeted out a picture of that is provided by Game Surplus for you, our fans. And it is also published by Capstone Games. So thanks to Game Surplus. Thank you to Capstone Games. The game in question is Three Kingdoms Redux. And here's what you got to do to get yourself in the contest. First of all, go and buy yourself a computer. Then, using that computer...
They could go to the library.
Yeah, you can go to the library. Okay, you don't have to, but yes, go onto the internet, and then once you're there, you need to go to the Good Board Ugly Guild. Join that guild, and you will see in the forums there is a question asked by none other than the man who, if you have very young ears, you might not be able to hear the frequency he speaks at. Trent Ham asked a question, and that question was, what is your favorite game outside of the BGG, the Board Game Geek Top 500 Games? Share there with your favorite game outside of the top 500 games, and there is no such thing as a wrong answer here. Yes, in the BGG Guild. Thank you. It's good to see you, Adam, by the way.
Hey, wait. There are wrong answers. There's 500 wrong answers to that question.
That's fair.
He's not wrong.
There are 500 wrong answers, and I ignored all 500 of them. Yeah, and actually there's almost one. I wanted to say Churchill, but that's number 501. So it's ridiculous that Churchill is that low. But anyway, that technically at the time when I was taking a look down there, it totally counts. So anyway, yeah, take one of those games. just submit what you think. You can just say something somebody else said. But anyway, we'd love to hear from you. We're going to be using that in our episode that we will be recording next Thursday at 8:45 Central Standard Time. And here's the way that we're going to do it. This isn't all listed on the page, but just so you know, we are going to stop submissions about a half hour or so before the podcast. I'm going to enter all those into like random number generator and every submission, and then based on whoever wins that will be announced when we do that podcast next week. So then you will get to hear who exactly wins the copy of Three Kingdoms Redux, which, spoiler alert, is an amazing game that is not in the BGG top 500. So
and I do
anyway,
have to say one thing, Joe. Churchill is now number 498.
Okay, it doesn't count, man. Yeah, you know what? If anybody has answered with that, then they are now DQ'd. And I greatly apologize, but you know what? Rules are rules. I'm sure it's not the first time you've heard that, especially since we're all board gamers. Rules are rules. Like, hey, do you mind if I take that back? No!
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I might. No, pretty much. Just do it. Just do it.
Already.
So
all right.
In the world of interesting statistics, more than half of my collection is not in the BGG top 500.
It's funny because I got the feeling like all of these games I'm listing here are like that little intersection of me and Andy's likes.
That's about right.
It's like, these are the only games me and Andy play together. It's like all the other games I like tend to be in the top 500. And it's like, this is a game that Andy really likes. And that's probably why I've actually played it. But yeah, no, these are definitely some of my favorite games. So stay tuned next week and you'll hear all about that. So anyway, guys, that's our contest this week. Hope to see as many of you as possible participating in that. And even if you're not interested in the game, dude, just, you use the game for what's got beautiful artwork. You should definitely play the game, actually. I mean, there's no reason not to play such an excellent game.
Just find 2 friends and play the game.
Or even just like find 2 mannequins, dress them up, and play the game with them.
Nobody, I totally didn't do that. Don't believe the rumors.
All right, well, here at The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, we review games. We're going to then talk about our topic, the elitists hobby, the people who are very elitism. And basically, Andy's going to have fun. I have a feeling like Andy's going to be given a lot of finger shakes in this episode. No. So we'll talk about that topic. We'll then hype games, and we are now going to start off with our reviews. The first review will start out with the potentially lightest game on the list. I think I'm just kind of guessing here. I mean, I have played everything else but this game, but I assume it's pretty light because I think, Trent, you play this one with your kids, right?
Yes, I actually thought this one should go last because it segued into our topic, but I'll go with it now. All right.
Some of us aren't as good at segues. Some of us don't like good segues.
Some of us just don't read the messenger when we talk to each other.
Some of us do read the messenger and choose to go with their own amazing judgment, and then they start actually reading the messenger and saying that they, okay.
If they're coming here, they're not looking for professionalism anyway, so whatever.
Sorry, guys. All right, so let's go ahead. Hey, Trent, go ahead and kick it off, man. We'll round it off with Mr. Jon, since he's going to be talking mostly about our topic.
All right, I'm going to talk about Monopoly Gamer, which is a new release from Hasbro. It's been getting an absurd amount of hype lately, and I'm not sure why. Actually, I have some guesses why, but let me review the game first and explain what the deal is. Monopoly Gamer is a variant on the game Monopoly we're all familiar with, except the game is designed so that all players combined only go past go a total of 8 times in the game. Okay? The game ends after the 8th person goes past go. Okay, so other than that, it's kind of like normal Monopoly in a way, except you're playing a unique character, and they each have special abilities that trigger every once in a while. When you roll your dice, one of the dice has special ability symbols on it, and they're all like involved taking money from other players or something, or getting a little bit of free money from the bank, or something like that. The game moves really fast. There's actually, even though the game ends after the 8th person goes past go, there are teleports around the board to make it even faster. There are pipes literally that move you faster around the board. Okay, this game takes 20 minutes. Like
20 minutes because of
yeah. Okay, I'm not exaggerating a bit, seriously. So what happens when you pass go is you get your money for passing go, and then you have a boss battle. Basically, you wager coins on a dice roll, is what the boss battles boil down to. And then if you win, you get some sort of special prize within the game for doing it, some sort of reward. Okay, at the end of the game, after everybody has gone around, the winner is not the person with the most money. The winner is the person with the most points. You get points for having deeds. You get points for having actually beat the bosses. You keep the card.
Who are these bosses? Does it just say boss, or is this like Uncle Pennybags?
No,
Or
there's a deck of cards that depict all sorts of different villains from the Mario games because this is Mario themed.
Oh, that's what they get.
Yes,
gamer.
It's all Monopoly. It's all on Mario themed. So like they have like
you got there eventually, Joe. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yes. Let's clap for Joe. Okay, so the cards, there's just like 8 of them, and they're in a certain order of progressively harder boss battles. And they're just like harder dice rolls to pull off, harder combos and stuff. And you have to pay a fee to do a boss battle. You have to give up some coins. Because all the money in the game is coins, because Mario, of course.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I pay 2 coins, and I have to get a 5 on this dice roll. And if I do, then I get to keep the card for 20 points. And I get some sort of prize within the game that will help me. And then basically there are 8 total boss battles. They're triggered every time anyone passes go. If you lose a boss battle, the option to do the boss battle passes to the person to the left. And everybody has the option to keep doing it until either someone wins or everyone passes. And if everybody passes, you throw the card out of the game. So literally the game ends after 8 people pass go. That's not an exaggeration. Literally, that's the game clock.
Wow.
Okay, so what I feel about this game. This game is got some feel of Monopoly. It plays really fast. There's almost no strategy to it. Almost none. Very, very, very little. Like, but the thing is, it plays fast. And did I mention it plays fast? I did like the creativity they had in some of the character special abilities. Like, there's a dude who's basically a slumlord. One of the characters, we have a character called Rosalina her ability is she's a slumlord. She gets huge benefits from having a lot of crappy properties. That's like
Rosalina and Luma from like Super Smash Brothers and Super Mario Galaxy?
Yeah.
What? That seems so ridiculous.
Yeah, she's like a slumlord. And like Donkey Kong's ability is just like everybody drops coins on the board, and then people can go around and pick them up. Like, if you go over the spot where people have dropped coins, you just pick them up.
So Trent, how long does it take to play this one?
I'd say 15 minutes.
Okay, so
it plays fast.
It's really, really light. It's really light.
This means
the components are great. I will give it that. It's a good family game. I would say I would way rather play this with a kid than Candyland.
Adam here says he always had that feeling about Rosalina, that she always had that slumlord vibe. Like she just giving off a little bit of those vibes.
If you have like a 6 to 8 or 9-year-old that likes the Mario theme, this is fantastic. I'd happily play this with a kid that's like in that age frame that loves Mario. I would never play this with a table of adults. It just wouldn't happen. I would not do it. I don't understand. I don't understand why people are hyping this as an adult's game. I don't understand. I mean, it's a great
requirement. Like Adam said, there's nostalgia for the gamer, like the gamers, Mario and stuff, and then you've also got it's called Monopoly. So everybody thinks of Monopoly, and you're like, hey, you want to play Monopoly? Oh yeah, let's play Monopoly Gamer Edition, and that's because it's like painlessly short is the only thing it's got going for it. Yeah, like Adam here says. This will fulfill his requirement of playing Monopoly with kids. That's it right there.
Yes, that's it. But I see
it's like a national.
I see people talking about playing this at the table of adults, and I just don't see it. I would never play this with adults. There is no group of adults that exists that I would pull this out for other than like a joke kichi kind of thing. Like we're just joking around and playing it. But in a normal situation on a game night, even with adults that were non-gamers, I would never pull this out. There are many other games I would pull out with non-gamers other than this for other adults. Now, with like I said, a 6 to 9-year-old kid that really likes Mario, I'll pull this out in a heartbeat. That is great for that. Let's do it. But yeah, that's what this is. I don't understand the hype of this as like an adult fun time, because it's not. There are
So
many,
basically
many,
what you're
many
saying,
other games
Trent,
that plot with adults.
is you would just play this with like John.
With how much I'm laughing about how much he's saying, I would not
It's a
pull this out for
game.
kids.
Yeah, I can see John is like dying there. And yet, John, let's tell us your honest opinion. What are you thinking right now about Gamer Monopoly? And what is like? You're about to die, man.
No, it's just if this dude says pull out one more time, like, all right.
I would not pull this. Okay, all right. Well, anyway.
No, so here's what I'll give you about my thing about Gamer Monopoly is no, I've always hated Monopoly. Even as a kid, I've hated Monopoly. I've always liked Mario. But I'm not planning on putting the two together. Now, I've heard people say this is kind of like Mario Party, the game, which, sure, that's cool.
It's more like Mario Kart. I would compare it more to Mario Kart.
So, I mean, that's all cool and good, but what also bothered me was the fact that you had to buy boosters to have all of the characters.
Mm-hmm. You have to buy, there's 8 of them.
Yeah, like, that's...
What?
There's 8 mini
collectibles.
Like amiibo. Are they like amiibos or something?
Yeah,
like little figures? Okay.
They look like amiibos. Yeah, they look like small amiibos.
Ah.
The game comes with 5 of them, and then there's 8 more available in optional expansions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Honestly, Trent, do you have them all yet?
I have one. We bought one because it's my daughter's favorite character. That'd be Rosalina the Slumlord.
Oh, this is Slumlord Rosalina.
Her ability.
I wonder what your daughter's gonna be when she grows up.
But here's the thing. That was the one we had the most fun making jokes about, was Rosalina the Slumlord. So
yeah.
this is just
That
not
price
a game I
apparently
play
is
with other
horrible.
adults under normal situations. I just wouldn't. It's not.
No,
It's a great game. If you have a 6 to 9-year-old that likes Mario, get this. It's great. Perfect.
Are you willing to admit what the booster price is?
$3.99.
Well, I would say this is going to be probably the next game that I talk about on my YouTube video series, the Ixalan Coefficient, in which I give a rating based on how many decisions per minute you are making. This is poster child. What an excellent game for me too.
It's no more decisions, it sounds like, than actual Monopoly. If not, it's maybe a little bit less. So, I mean, obviously, if you don't like Monopoly, don't play this game.
Rosalina's ability, which will come up about 3 times during a game, actually has a decision. And it's a really simple one.
Mm-hmm.
Is it pick up the coin or don't pick up the coin?
No, it's who to steal a property from.
Oh, okay.
And that's like, I mean, the only decision is who to target with a bad effect. That's it. There's some take that to it, if that makes it even better.
You know how much I love that in my games.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
because if there's one thing I love in my Monopoly, it's Munchkin.
All right, with that, let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about some slightly heavier fare here with a game. I'll jump in here with a game that's been on Kickstarter and has recently delivered. It's a game called Outlive. And when David saw the box, he was like, this is basically like Fallout for the board game. Because you're going to be managing a base. You're going to be moving around on a central board. You've got heroes that each have a number on them, like 3, 4, 3, 3, 4, 5. There's only 8 locations, so you are very limited as to where you can go. You're literally blocking half of the board for yourself. And once you've gone to a place, you can never go there again in the same turn. But you actually, when you go to a place and take an action, you're going to apply pressure to other players, which means if you take a 5 and throw it onto a 3 that's already been activated, you apply 2 points of pressure, which they either have to discard ammo or give you stuff. So that's kind of a little bit of interaction here, but you have control over what order you put your guys out around the board. The thing is, as the game goes on, you're going to need certain actions, and that's going to require you to vacate actions earlier that you might, like, so you might end up with a 3 that you have to move because you want to get in there with the 5 before all the stuff from that place is gone. It ends up where it really creates some tough decisions as to what order you're going to place your guys around the board in. There's a lot of resources in this game. Like there's 210 little tokens because there's 30 of 7 different types. There's 7 resources, but that's kind of almost pointless because there's 3 resources that are fairly well interchangeable as just building materials. There's 3 more resources that are different types of food, and really the only thing that matters is whether or not you can keep them round to round. Then there's ammunition. So there really should be 3 resources. However, there's slight differences to the other ones. Anyway, you're going to be moving about this board. You're going to be having to deal with radiation. And the whole point of the game is to try to get as many survivors into your place as you can. Every survivor, though, has to be stationed in a room. And once you station them in a room, you need to start paying an upkeep for that room. Rooms give you special abilities when you've totally filled them out. But you're going to be actually drafting, or not drafting, you're going to be choosing a certain amount of rooms all at the beginning of the game. So you do get that strategy, or at least the illusion of strategy, as I'll go on to talk about, because you're going to be deciding what rooms you want to have at your disposal at the before you even start playing the game. You're like, okay, you always start with the same 3 basic rooms. You choose 4 out of 6 that you are dealt advanced rooms that you are going to potentially get to build. And you automatically get to build one for free. And that sounds great. But really, these rooms are not good ideas. They are not. Absolutely not. Like, I can mathematically prove to you how every single room in this game is at best a conversion level of 1-to-1, but usually comes with some sort of strings attached, meaning you're converting water into building materials 1-to-1 or something like that. Every single room has an upkeep cost that at least nullifies any benefit you will get from that room in nearly every case. And that's because there's a really strange rule in this game where every single tile, every single room, you can get equipment that comes broken, you have to fix it. Everything only has 1 use per round. Once you use it, it's over. And that means that if I'm spending three commodities, 3 food to keep a room good, and I'm only getting 3 building resources, what am I doing? I'm converting 3 building resources or 3 food into 3 building resources. And I don't have a choice about that. As soon as I start putting people in a room, they're stuck there. So anyway, this game seems to have this strategy in these rooms that you can build, but ultimately every single room you can build is a mistake. And the only reason that you should build rooms is because you do get points at the end of the game. However, you get 7 total possible rooms. You have to build all 7 of them before it really gets that good at point scoring. You get 0 points for building 1, 1 point for building 2, 2 points for building 3. Those are terrible. It's absolutely awful. If you can get 6 rooms out, it's worth like 11 points. The real thing here, though, is that your rooms just give a place for you to put survivors, because that's what you really get points for. But do not try to fill up your rooms. The best strategy in this game is to sit there and get as much non-perishable food as possible, and then wait until the last 3 rounds and then start getting survivors. Because otherwise you just end up with this constant needing tons and tons of resources to fulfill your own little board. Because of that, I just cannot say that aspect of the game of Outlive, it's not a tableau builder. It's like this losing battle. You're always going to be dealing against a non-efficient machine. It feels like Fallout 4, the Rube Goldberg shelter machine game, because you're always losing resources mathematically. And it feels like you shouldn't be. It feels like that should be one of the viable paths to victory. I don't want to have to sit there and just see how much non-perishable food I can get and then blow it all at the end of the game to get tons of survivors. To me, it just seems like a lot of the aspects, especially the board in this game, is awesome. I love the decisions of moving around, having ammunition, having to pay resources to other players, but I just cannot come to terms with the fact that the base, your own sort of multiplayer solitaire part of the game is completely inefficient. Anyway, that's my spiel on Outlive. But you played in my game, David. You've played a little bit. How would you react to what I just said?
Well, apparently we played it wrong.
The first time we played it wrong because we were allowing multiple uses of rooms.
Which made the rooms actually work better.
It made it so that it seemed right. But the problem is some of the rooms are so pinholed that they can only be used once. Yeah. If they're tied to something on the board, you can never do things on the board more than once. So I think the designer did that to make sure that they were balanced. But the problem was he made all the rooms suck.
And when you were talking to me about this earlier, it made it seem like he tried to make it thematic, that the more survivors you had, the more difficult it was to maintain that tableau of buildings and rooms. And I can't really give a good review about it because, I mean, we played it wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to review it with that more difficult aspect.
Absolutely. The comments that I'm making are things that you would need to play it again to. Okay.
We did play the board part correctly. That part was great.
The actual public board moving around.
Pressure,
that's really
all
fun.
That stuff is fun. Works really well.
It filters your decisions.
You're not necessarily targeting somebody.
You're forced to apply pressure.
You're forced to apply the pressure.
Part of the game.
It's just part of the game where you go to that spot that you want, and it just happens. It's not like I'm going there because I am targeting you, and oh well, I get some other stuff too.
I definitely, at this point, really need to talk to the designer about Live. I got home too late last night after this big revelation. I was like, I got to the end of this game, and I was like, man, I just spent 16 resources in the last round of this game, and literally all I did was keep all these rooms I had from last round from losing me points. That's it. I made no new survivors because it cost me so many actions just to keep what I already had going. And other players were like, they were doing other things throughout the game, like combating events and stuff, and they were not playing the board game. And so in the last round, they were just able to get so much food, as much food as I could, and they were just like, all right, I'll attract all these survivors, and then they never had to actually feed them.
Yep. I'd be interested. I enjoyed the game that we played. I liked it.
I did too. I mean,
it wrong.
I really do like so many aspects of the game. It just has that, to me, it's almost become like this sort of Kickstarter feeling where it's like,
you want to like it because you kickstarted it.
I wouldn't say that. No, I don't think I suffer from that. I mean, I could, but I like a part of the game. I think that the theme is really well executed. I think that the board, the actual decisions you make on the board are really, really cool. It's just that the room part of the game is such a part of the game. If you take that out, I feel like the board is way less interesting, but you can't really keep it in there with it being this inefficient mess.
Would you feel any better about drafting the rooms before? Or
I think they're like I went through every single room, and there wasn't a single one that I could say that one gets you more resources than it costs you.
All right. Well, the part we played correctly, I really enjoyed. The part that we didn't play correctly,
enjoyed because we were screwing it up.
Play again.
But I had less in that game. I had crappier rooms. I had rooms that were more could only be used once.
Yeah, but to me, I might enjoy it because I like the thematic notion that the more survivors you have, the harder it is to keep up your entire base, essentially. And if you start putting them into rooms, then you've got to feed them, but they only marginally help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
To continue to feed them and whatnot. So we'll see. I'll have to give another
shot. And I think really good point here from our chat. Kickstarter games are often underdeveloped, and I feel like I would even add to that, often underdevelopment. Like, I feel like I'm kind of doing a little bit of the developer job. Like, if I do email this designer, which I intend to do, just to see, like, is this what you're going for? To get his side of it, I feel like I'd be doing kind of like the developing job, and I feel like maybe later versions of the game could benefit from a little bit of reworking. But by the way, Daniel, it's great to see you. We got Daniel, we got Garth here joining us on our chat, and great comments. Anyway, yeah, the comments about Kickstarter being under development, totally agree with that. Anyway, guys, I don't think, has anybody else got anything to say about Outlive?
Nope.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about, let's see here. We got, hey, David, you got an interesting experience that happened when you were playing a game that's supposed to take an hour, but it took quite a bit longer than that. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, some people were finishing up a longer, heavier game. Hey, let's play this short. It only takes about an hour game of Inish. Yes, Inish. October Stormish guy. So let's go ahead and play this. It only takes an hour from my previous experience. Well, we had a fun, and Trent was involved in this. Well, it ended up being, I think, a 3-hour game of Inish. But hey, I enjoyed it because I won. That's all that matters, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely, right? Got hustled.
Anyway, to talk about Innis in a kind of excluding that, because that really is not the norm for this game.
No, 3 hours is ridiculous.
Honestly, that it should have finished up in the proposed it would take, and then
but I think what was it? Trent was in that game. Trent, what were you saying that was the cause of that?
Everybody was just countering perfectly everything everybody else was doing. Like, you'd think you had 2 or 3 layers of protection for your plan, but it would get drilled through it. It happened over and over again. It was amazing.
Yep. Anyway, as for the review, ignoring that kind of longer game, which doesn't happen very often for that, Innis is a card drafting dudes on a map game where you're trying to meet certain victory conditions. It's the rule of 6, having 6 different areas that you're present in, 6 sanctuaries that you're present in those tiles with, or your chieftain, which you have the most pieces on a specific tile, and then there's at least 6 other guys on the different tiles that your chieftain's on. Mm-hmm. You can limit that 6 number by getting these harps. I forget what they're called. Deeds. And that will lower the number that you need. And that was another problem with that game, is we weren't getting deeds at the beginning.
You need
of the
deeds
game
to win the
either.
game. It makes the game so that these victory conditions, it's tough. Like, it's tough to maintain 6 of anything if you have no deeds. But if you get like 3 deeds, now you pretty much just
3, and it's difficult, especially since you'll have that victory condition much more than 3. Probably by then they've got to take you down. Beyond that. But so there's this drafting aspect where all these cards have movement, adding more guys, attacks, changing,
building up the board too.
Building up to it, putting down more of the plastic pieces, sanctuaries, or the
Geist card, the
cancel card. But beyond that, there's also these other cards. I'm blanking on the name now. The red deck.
The Epic Tale cards.
Epic Tale cards, which are actually very powerful. And we got through the entire deck, which is almost 1.5 times, which is really rare for a game of Innis.
You never get through that. Usually you get through like a third of it.
Usually those are the cards that help you get to that rule of 6, the victory conditions.
Because nobody knows what they are.
Because they don't know what they are. They're powerful. They're situational, and they really end up helping out. And other than that, if you are chieftain of a certain land area, certain land areas have cards that are added to your hand at the beginning of each round, and you can use those too. I really like this game. I like it more than I think it's compared to Blood Rage quite a bit with the drafting dudes on a map game. I like it quite a bit more than that. Plays usually in about an hour, really no matter the player count, 2 to 4. It stays a quick game no matter what. And it just works. Every of the victory conditions are achievable. There isn't one that's overpowered whatsoever. You know the cards that are coming up. They're the same drafted cards every time.
Except for one. 1/17
that nobody knows
of the game is not known. Like, you don't know which one is not out. Could be the Geist. It could be that you're sitting there like, when's the cancel card coming out? And it could be that that's the 1 in 17 cards that's out.
And everything for me just clicks. I really like this game. And probably my favorite dudes on a map, although I have to give Kemet a few more plays before I make that judgment between those two, because those are the two that are tops for that right now for me.
And then when people are early in the hobby, they also say things like, Ticket to Ride's my favorite game.
So you don't like Kemet?
No. You said that like Innis is your favorite dudes on a map game, and to me, like, Innis does a great job of trimming away a lot like of the fat that can sometimes keep down a dudes on a map game. But I do think that a lot of the bells and whistles,
in a way that still keeps it with the meaty decisions.
So it would be great for Andy, but maybe
hold on
not
a
so
second. Hold on, you're reviewing a 3-hour game and saying, "Oh, it's streamlined."
It's one where it just comes down to whether or not the players are willing to totally limit each other. But those deeds, like, I've never seen a game where it was what you guys were an hour and a half in, and I was like, how many deeds do you guys have? None. 0.
It was kind of our own fault. We were all countering each other perfectly.
Could be going for deeds. There's like ways to easily get deeds. Even you can be getting guaranteed deeds that nobody can take from you. There's no way to like steal deeds, once you get them. So it was just like people were choosing to use cards because the cards that give you deeds almost always have a different effect that'll change your state in the game. And I think people were just making those choices. So yeah, Trent, this is a 3-hour streamlined game. It's such an uncharacteristic
3 hours
game.
Was not a normal game for Innis.
No. All right, well, that is Innis. Thanks, David. And now let's go ahead and move on to the game that we have been really, I think we've been, as a group, prepping for this review for quite a while. Andy, you take it away.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the game Lignum from Capstone Games. Clay was nice enough to send us a review copy, so a lot of people in the group have been playing it. Lignum, in this game, it is kind of an economic Euro. It's one of those sort of hybrid ones, but you're basically running a logging company. So the general structure of the game is you're going to pick a certain cutting area that's going to have certain types of wood in it. After you do that, you're going to go through a path, and the path is going to have resources you need on it. You're going to travel through the path, maybe collecting saws, collecting carts, rafts, various things like that. Then you get to another phase where you then do things with this. You try to saw the logs because sawed wood is going to make more money. You need to store some back for winter. You need to collect food on the pass, so it's got to feed your people mechanic. Then you kind of get to this other oddball winter phase, which is just a little bit different. So you only kind of get to do a little bit during winter. And that's basically the game. Now, the thing that makes this game actually, though, very interesting is this is basically planning the game. The difficulty in this game does not come from the rules. The rules overhead is much worse than like a Vital Lacerda game or something like that. This really isn't that complex of a game, and everything. If you know a little bit about a history of the logging industry, everything thematically makes sense within the game. Now, the thing that makes it hard, though, is like I said, it's tight and it's planning. The basically more efficient you try to do things, so the ways that will cost you the least amount of your hard-earned money, the more your timing becomes critical. And it becomes very easy to slip up and make mistakes. So if you want to do things in the most efficient manner possible, you got to keep a lot of balls juggling in the air. And if one of them drops, it can just wreck your plans. Now, you can go the other way and do it easy and not do a lot of planning, but you're not going to win the game because, you know, the winning score can be the difference of just a few dollars. And so the more you try to plan, the better your game's going to go in terms of points, but the harder it is to really keep that game in check and working. I have found over repeated plays that my scores continue to go up, but the likelihood I'm going to make a catastrophic failure has also gone up.
Yeah, I was there. I could tell you straight up, like, I witnessed Andy trying to juggle all these balls. I got to see what it looks like when Andy's balls drop.
Yeah, that did not turn out well.
Sorry, Andy.
Yeah, it's valid. I'm trying to be the adult here. But anyway, Lignum is definitely, I don't know. At the lightest, I would call this a medium-heavy game. It's the planning is very difficult. There's a lot of that. There's a little bit of variance with it you can use. Like there's one where it's a little more tactical, the way you choose your logging pass. There's also the one where it's kind of get in the head of your opponents. What do they want? What do I want? What can I afford to go for? So if you want a little more control, you can use the tactical variant. If you want to play a little more head games, you use the other way to play the game. I kind of prefer that way just because it creates vastly more amusing situations. Like in one of the games Trent and I were in, there was one spot that was obviously better. And all of us picked a different spot because we all assumed somebody else would pick that spot.
Yeah, that seems to happen quite a bit. Like, and I almost feel like if the best place doesn't get chosen, then what is wrong with the players? Like, and so what I've seen happen is when that variant's used, or not the variant, but the base game has you doing that. We got a question from Adam. Have we tried the variant where you choose? And yes, we did that in our last game, and that was my preferred way to play the game. Because when I see, like, for example, the best area go unused, it just seems like this is silly. Like, why would none of the lumberjacks go to the area that was best? You know, the area that had the most wood in it. Why would you not, you know, like, wouldn't whoever like had rights to that be like, hey, this is the best spot. You know, like you pay more, you go here. It just seems like one of those things where there should maybe be like a different mechanism than that. I mean, like it being only tied to turn order seems like it makes almost the turn order worth even more. Like it makes it even more part of the planning. Like the order you finish in is now the opposite order of when you get to choose. So it seems to almost add like even more to that, or it might be that I'm remembering it in the opposite direction. But anyway, it makes it so that the planning is even higher. And to me, the planning is what this game does right. So I really, really preferred the variant where you get to pick, because one time we had it where 3 guys all went to the objectively third best spot, got no food. And then one guy who happened to be the elusive Nate went to the best spot and got, or not best spot, the second best spot, and got like 2 food for free. And then the best spot just went totally unused. And so we were sitting there food poor. Picking up 2 food at that point for Nate was like picking up $2. And the rest of us were like, not only are we not going to be able to cut any wood because not that much wood here, and there's 3 of us. But also, we have no food. Like, that was such a huge difference. Like, and that's ultimately, like, let's talk about this in game terms. It's like one player getting essentially $3, and then every other player at the table getting nothing. And to me, like, that swing absolutely like, not in a game with this much planning, not in a game where your decisions mean so much. It's player driven, but it does add randomness. I mean, it adds this swing that I just could not stomach. So, I mean, for me, the fact that there is an added variant that takes that away, it totally, like, I need to play with that variant. I really, really like this game a lot with that variant.
Yeah, I would say previous to this game, the top 2 games I've enjoyed for their planning aspect had been Terra Mystica and Spirits of the Rice Paddy, and Lignum blows them both out of the water in terms of a game that involves planning. Mm-hmm. If that's the feeling I want, Lignum's going to be the game I reach for. And once people know what they're doing, you can rock it through Lignum pretty fast.
I agree, but there's a lot of tactical stress in Lignum that I don't think can be planned on. Like you compared it to Terra Mystica, and I agree with your comparison to Spirits of the Rice Paddy. I think that there's quite a bit that's out of your control and quite a bit of tactical maneuvering in Spirits of the Rice Paddy. But I think that in Terra Mystica, the fact that the only thing you're reacting to is other players means that strategic planning is a little bit deeper. I do feel like the tension and stress in Lignum gives me this awesome, like, I love it, the way that the plan work, where you've got to, like, plan 2 or 3 turns in advance, and you only get to do so much of it. You got to pay depending on other players that are there. So you really can make yourself some really good sort of beds to lie in. Or you can do what Andy did and just put a buttload of money into like the second round, cut all of the wood, and then sit there and watch your wood pile hold all of the wood as your actual sawmill is, like, failing and then going under.
Yep. But anyway, I still highly recommend Lignum. I know Capstone's still selling copies of it. It's making its way into other distributors and such now. So it's, if you like planning games on the medium heavy to heavy side, this is a game you don't want to pass up.
Yep. I really, really like Lignum. I especially think that when you add the buildings, add some nice, cool decisions. Mm-hmm. I think that it just, like, any extra spot you put on this path is going to add stress, because it's like, if I take that, then somebody else is going to take that thing down the road that I need. And every single spot is like, it turns into, like, how much is this worth to me? Like, if I can get a cart, now I have to have previously bought fodder to be able to use this cart. But if I can, then I get really, really efficient delivery. And that's really, like, I mean, it's just that sort of thought, this sort of stress as you're looking at what's ahead of you on the board and whether or not you're going to be able to feed, whether or not you're going to be able to heat your house. It really does give you some of that same really stressful moments as in Agricola, only I'd say maybe even more tense because of that linear progression. There's no going back. All right, that is Lignum. And now, to round us off before we go into our topic, John, tell us about a game, and why don't you, once you get done, tell us what you think Andy would say about the game.
Okay. I'm going to be talking about a game called Dice Forge. This game is a literal dice builder. It is a game where you are given 2 dice with 6 sides on both of these dice, with removable sides on each of these dice. And what you do throughout the game is, and when everybody on everybody's turn, everybody will roll their 2 dice, and you gain the resources you get from these dice. Usually at the beginning of the game, it's going to be gold, then there's moonstones, and then there's sunstones.
Three different currencies.
Yep, but for the most part, you're just going to get gold.
And points.
But yeah. So what you do is, once you have enough gold, you can then use that gold to purchase different faces for the dice. So you remove a side off the dice, and you purchase a group of other dice faces that can range from more gold to more sunstones, more moonstones, more points, even such things like ×3s, which you get those ×3s from cards that are laid out. Because this kind of has a worker placement aspect to where there will be cards around the board, and each of these cards do different effects. They also have points to them. So one of the dice has, like, a whole bunch of points. Another of the cards has, like I mentioned earlier, the ×3 multiplier that you can put on your dice. Some of them will have, different faces. There's just so many things that they could do. What's interesting about this game is, so if somebody else wants to go into that space to pick up that card, you can go there, but what you're going to do is take that original person's marker back to the center of the board, and that person gets a free roll of their dice. I really like this game. This is a very light game. Are the decisions pretty heavy? No, but there are decisions definitely to be made. It was pretty quick too. I think of the 4-player game that I played took us maybe 30 minutes, 45 at the most. Did not take long. I think it might have just been longer just to teach the game. But it was still a lot of fun. I mean, it was, like I said, it's very light, and the art on it is pretty cartoony. But I would highly recommend it. I mean, it is a literal dice builder. You are building your dice so that they look better by the end. I do worry, one jump in the wrong time, those dice plates look like they could fly, and they are pretty small. So, if a bump on the table happens at the wrong time,
though, you got to use the faceplate of the new one to kind of wedge out the one that you're replacing.
And they did screen. I believe they did like a screen or a heat transfer. Mm-hmm. So it's not just stickers. They're these faces are on there real good.
Yep.
Yeah, but
the components are maybe some of the best components I think I've ever seen in a dice game.
Oh yeah, and they're really good. I just when I was taking off the dice of mine, I found them I just used one dice plate face to take off the last one, and they would still just fly.
All right, so the question here is, what's the end goal? You're getting points, so you do start with the ability to get 2 points. It's on one of your dice, one of your 2 dice, and so every time you roll that, you get to take 2 points, and you're just keeping track of your points on this little player board that has a 1 spot and a 10 spot. So you're just trying to. Apparently, you can get 300 points in this game if you play really well, because it goes up to having a 300-point chit. Anyway, it's just ridiculous because you'll, as John said, you're adding new faces to your dice. You start with the ability with 2/3 of your dice are going, 4 sides of each of them is going to be just getting you single dollar. But dollars are used to then purchase new faces. And then what you can do is just kind of beef up a single die. And then you can get these bonuses where it lets you roll one of your 2 die twice every single turn. And then you can find ways to, on the other die, you can put a ×3, and that way you have this really beefy die and another die that every time it hits ×3 is going to give you 3 times whatever beefy die gives you. You have the ability to extend tracks, that way you can conserve more, because that's really the big thing in this game. Every single turn, you are all rolling your own dice. It's really, really cool like that. It's almost like Catan, except I would say even further like what Machikoro tried to do, where every turn people are getting stuff. It's just that in this game, you are always getting stuff because you're rolling your own dice. The only time you don't get stuff is when you've already maxed out how much you can hold of that. But the thing is, you don't get that feeling that frustrated, I didn't get anything on this die roll. This is dumb. You don't have that. You feel well, I need to be more efficient with how I'm using my resources, because every turn you're limited to only one action. There is a way to get a bonus action, but it's tough to do. You're really making decisions about how to spend stuff, so that way you're being most efficient with what you've got. But at the same time, you're trying to use these 3 different resources to get tons of points. And it takes the 2 more advanced resources. First of all, you've got to kind of upgrade your dice to be able to get them. Then, once you've got them, you need to then spend action spending those to get the big points. Because cards will have points and then abilities on them. And of course, you just have the ability to roll points with your dice. Anyway, I would say this reminded me of Mystic Vale, and that it was a very unique system. Never seen anything like it. Nothing remotely like it in terms of dice crafting. Rattlebones was kind of like this, except it was roll and move. There's no roll and move here. It actually works. And I think the game is just aeons better than Mystic Vale. Mystic Vale felt so much like Ascension, like a Splendor or Ascension, where it's just all your choices are based on what's out there. Except I felt like in Mystic Vale it was maybe even worse. It just felt like Ascension, where you're just adding buffs to cards. I really did not like Mystic Vale, but this feels like a different system that actually works. Very light, like John said, but beautiful. The insert's great. The pieces are great. I really did think Dice Forge, especially considering it doesn't take that long, you're always engaged because you're always rolling your dice when it's not your turn. It's it checks a lot of boxes here in terms of being light and being really good.
I got the chance to play this. I agree with all the positive comments that you guys are giving it, but it still suffers from the problem of I upgraded my dice and I'm still rolling the
With single
faces that came with it, the single ones.
Single one goal, yeah, gold.
It just doesn't, it feels wrong when I've upgraded 2/3 of the dice, 4 of the faces, and I'm still rolling the single one, it feels like every time.
Yeah.
But other than that, when you do roll the right thing and the fact that you're rolling enough to where that shouldn't happen all the time.
It makes it more dramatic, though, when you've got this huge spread between what they are. And I think that's what they're going for here. Part of me is like, when I play Mystic Vale, I want a better game out of it. And when I played Dice Forge, I was like, I feel like this could be a heavier game. But then I think, like, you know what? I don't know.
I really want it to be.
I don't think I want it to be either. I think it's right where it should be. I think that it just maybe a little bit more variation. Maybe you can use your resources to do a little bit more unique things. But like, I really don't think any heavier would happen. And work with this and really make it better. What would Andy think about this game, John?
Oh no, he'd hate it.
Why?
Well, I mean, because of the way Andy is. He's kind of an elitist.
Go on. He's kind of an elitist.
Yeah.
Oh my God, did I just...
What?
Okay. No.
Yeah, buddy.
John got you halfway there. So.
Yeah, I don't deserve any praise.
No.
You
should pull out of
which
that.
is what an elitist would say. John, why are we talking about elitism?
Well, all right. So the reason why I wanted to talk about elitism, which is already a fun word to say multiple times, is lately I joined the Board Game Geek Facebook page, which in itself I do, like Trent said, worry that 50% of them are marketers. But this huge hype about Monopoly Gamer came out. And a little bit before Monopoly Gamer came out, people started talking about Monopoly. Now, is Monopoly a great game? No. Is Monopoly a good game? To hobbyists, not at all. But to people who are casual players, people who have never heard of other games, it is a game and it's fun for them. What happens is people like to think that because they think that Monopoly is a bad game, they are right. If you like it, you are wrong. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Well, I mean, John, what you just said was is Monopoly a great game? You said no. So, I mean, like...
I think where the difference is with elitism, though, is...
Is it the great game or the greatest game? That's the real question.
No, the issue is, and I think what John's getting to is, you get the individual who isn't going to go, hey, you know what, play what you want, have a good time. They're not going to be satisfied till they've beaten their viewpoint into you.
Yes.
They ascribe to the viewpoint that Monopoly is objectively bad, and that's not... Things like that are very subjective, not objective.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think it's a step further, because not only do they think it's objectively bad, they're not going to quit talking to you about it until you agree that it's objectively bad.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's to the point where, like I said, I see people on these forums where they will just go out, no, that game's bad. Like, they're, like I said, yes, you're right, Joe. I did say, is Monopoly a great game? No. Because personally, I don't like it. But I also admit that some people are going to like it. If somebody comes up to me and is like, hey, I'd love to play Monopoly. Hey, cool for you. I'd like to show you something else if you're ever interested. But you have fun. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to sit there and go, no, Monopoly's terrible, and you're a bad person for liking Monopoly. And anytime you mention Monopoly, God kills a kitten. Like those... And then those are the kind of things that I see now. And I get it. The internet is the worst place in the world for people. It's just, for once, turns everybody into telephone tough guys. The anonymity of the internet just lets people let them say whatever they want to, and this is why we have trolls. But the problem is that this is bleeding into hobbies that, ever since board games blew up, a lot more people are playing doing this hobby. And we're going to get those terrible people in there, but I'm seeing more of them in this hobby than I'm comfortable with. Mm-hmm. I am seeing more people just kind of go, no, you're terrible. You're a bad person, and I don't like you.
Would you consider this elitism? There's a Kickstarter right now that's a Euro game. I don't know if I mentioned the name or not, but it's Crusaders.
Mm-hmm.
One of their stretch goals was plastic miniature pieces. And there's a bunch of people in the comments that are complaining about, this is a Euro. We don't want that plastic crap in our Euro. Wooden pieces only. We just want wooden. You know, silk screen our wood pieces, but don't put that plastic crap in my Euro.
I mean, do I consider that elitism? I mean, probably not, but there is definitely a hint of it in there, especially seeing how they're not even given the chance to even see what miniatures would look like.
I think that's part of my point is we're better than those plastic miniatures, those people that play with those plastic toys. We want wood.
Yeah.
I understand. I would come at it from this angle because I kind of felt I never like voiced anything in this game, but I kind of felt like when I saw that they were going to add plastic miniatures as a stretch goal, I was like, it's not something that I would work towards. Because here was the big issue I had with it was that they were, I believe that silkscreen components were already being advertised. Silkscreen wood components were either being advertised or were a stretch goal. I think it was just that they were already a part of it. So it's like, we've already got this thing that you're advertising as being well made, and it's like that's apparently not good enough, and now we have to have plastic pieces that, and so it's kind of like I feel like I'm giving up one upgrade for a different upgrade, whereas I just want to have upgrades that are only upgrades. So, and I mean that to me though is obviously what we're talking about here is the people that are like, if you have plastic in your games, you're playing with toys.
Yeah.
And
that was my main point.
And no, and I get that, but the problem is you know what, and you're right, it kind of actually does come off more elitism because the second people hear miniatures or plastic miniatures, they immediately put their brains to Zombicide, any cool mini or not game, and they go, oh, you're going to turn my Euro into garbage.
What, are you going to start rolling dice now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and you're right, that comes off as elitism, and it's just this hobby it's made to be fun. And, you know, I remember we were, you know, joking around about the whole when, you know, what the words are, the trigger phrases we were talking about. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to the episode. But if you
wow.
Was one of the ones we were joking about with Joe was, and I'm not sure if you mentioned this or not, when somebody describes the game as fun.
I mean, yeah, like if it means that you like it. It's just like saying like, I like this game. It's a good game. All of these things are, you know, they're not really telling anything. And I don't think, I mean, if you are enjoying the hobby like that, that's totally cool. The problem is if you're going to be reviewing a game, I think that you owe it to, I think you owe it as a reviewer to be a little bit more descriptive than that. Like you're not going to see like a movie critic write down like, this is a good movie, as like, you know, and then publish that in a newspaper. I don't think that would be, you know, accepted as being at the level that the journalism needs to be at. I don't know. Maybe what I just said is super elitist. Maybe what I just said is like dropping references as Daniel is just saying here on our chat. He's like, you know, trying to make people feel dumb, drop references everywhere, make yourself feel like, well, this is what I'm going for. Like when you guys were talking about Monopoly, I was like, what would I say to people? Because I don't ever want to play Monopoly. And what would I say to people to try to like, you know, steer them towards this? Like here's an actual real world example. I was at Origins and there was a guy who was working at the Peterson Games, I think is what it's called, where they make Cthulhu Wars, right? And I just went over there because I was waiting on somebody, and I picked up. Of course, you know, I was waiting on somebody. That was the whole reason I was there. Is that my story's already elitist? It's like I wasn't there because I wanted to look at the big plastic miniatures. I was forced to wait around, and then I was like, man, I'll go over here and pick this up. Anyway, I pick up this piece. And it's like a huge thing. This guy who's like trying to help market, seems like a sweet, nice guy, comes over and he's like, so you like playing strategy games? Strategy games. And I guess that kind of triggered me. I guess that really did. It kind of triggered me because I was like, I think I said, my brother was with me and he told me like, Joe, that was kind of bad, man. Because I just was like, yeah, I tend to prefer like Euro games. That's why I just straight up said, like, I'm a really big fan of Euro games. And because this guy had used the phrase strategy games. And I think what he really meant was just kind of like modern hobby board games. And he was trying to blanket everything. He was like, are you familiar with board games? And so I kind of was like, did exactly what Daniel says here. I used it like, are you as deep in the hobby as me? Are you worthy to be starting a conversation? Yeah. I'm actually upgraded from Ameritrash. Like that was like the past to me. So I guess what I said was like, yeah, I'm into Euro games. And that was, you know, I wasn't trying to be like, I know a lot about this hobby. And but I was just trying to be as upfront as possible. I don't honestly think that the guy I was talking to knew what the phrase Eurogame meant. I do not know. I do not believe he knew what that phrase actually even meant. I think that he just thought board games are board games. But anyway, it was a very awkward interchange.
Eurogames is becoming dated, Gramps.
So here's how I look at that. So especially when you take the Ameritrash to the Eurogame, I'm going to take this out of board games for half a second here, and I'm going to have you think about this. You walk up to a guy and you got a can of Bud Light in your hand. You say, "Hey, you want a beer?" Because you want to sit there and enjoy a beer with your friend. He goes, "No, I only enjoy German beers." Like, what is that guy? He's a D-bag. He is a 100%. I don't like you already.
What if he said it like this? What if it's because of how you said that? What if it's, "No, man, no, thanks, but I just really like German beers. I'm not a big fan of Bud Light, But
and I like that guy. I love that guy.
And it's so, it's to me, it's so like the difference between A and B is so easy to totally ignore because it's like I feel like just if I wanted to be very blunt, I would be guy A. Like I'm kind of wondering because I know almost nothing about coffee. David here knows a ton about coffee, and here's what I knew about coffee.
You're all below me when it comes to coffee.
here's what I knew about coffee. I knew that I did not like coffee, but I went to Costa Rica for a study abroad, and I loved the coffee in Costa Rica. I come back to the United States, it just isn't the same, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I don't drink coffee. And my parents put like crap tons of cream, sugar in the coffee, and it is for whatever reason. This coffee tastes like crap to me, and I don't drink it. But then David's like, I go over to David's house once, and he's like, it's because they don't really know the science behind it. They're going for this certain amount of like consistency where they essentially take all their beans and burn them to a crisp. And people like their beans burnt to a crisp because they get like, this is the taste of coffee. We sell one product in this gas station. That product is called coffee. Would you like coffee? Whereas David ain't going to buy anything that isn't like going to tell you the date and assuming it was ground just before now and was used maybe like a V60 or a Chemex brew process or it was maybe pressurized espresso or occasionally someplace we'll get to anyway. I don't want to get too far off here, guys. But Trent, I mean, like you went. What do you think about that, Trent? Because I know that you participate in the coffee bean exchange at HeavyCon. Like, what if somebody was just like, you walk into their house and they're like, "Hey, do you want a coffee?"
No,
would you ask them?
I'd say okay, and I drink it.
That's it, period. Because here's the thing I think. I don't like the product that is just called coffee if that's all that it is. If you tell me, "Oh, I've got a coffee," and then I'm like, "What kind of coffee is it?" And they're like, "Well, I bought it from this roaster. Really like their stuff. This is from this region." And like, am I being elitist if I want to know that before I have it? Because I don't like the product that's just like, gas station coffee, McDonald's coffee.
It's honestly the way that you deliver it.
But hold on. Here's
an awesome discussion you're going in the comments, guys. By the way, if you've seen this, like beer should be chewy. Like we got some pretty.
Thanks, Phil. IPAs are awful.
IPAs are awful. Yeah. So what was it like hipsters? Like I had my buddy was just in town at my 10th year cast reunion this last weekend, and he's from Brooklyn, and he's like, well, there's these different, there's like these different neighborhoods, and I was like, is there like a PBR neighborhood where all the hipsters live?
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's called the downtown area of Des Moines.
All I have to say is water sucks. It really, really sucks.
Water is tastier than.
Okay.
Anyway. I actually love water. It's what I drink most of the time.
Okay, I want to read something that Garth said in the chat because I thought it was really good. I'm going to read this. He said something I always think about when it comes to elitism is how to balance how much fun I can have with a game versus how much fun others will have. Thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good question, Andy.
Yeah, I would say that probably resonates with me and most of the people I interact with in my end of the hobby, because for me it's not, well, at least on my end, it's not so much elitism as far as I look down on those games. There are two exceptions. I've mentioned them before. But anyway, for the most part, it's...
That was so elitist. Oh, my God. Like, if I was sitting next to you and not David, I would have, like, slapped you, I think. I really think so.
But for the most part, my issue is...
Gaming experience.
There's exceptions. Elitism counts as long as it's in these cases. I'm sorry, Andy. Keep going, dude.
But for me, it's a lot of like knowing myself and how I interact with stuff. And so, for example, you know, if you've ever played a social deduction game with me, you realize I'm horrible at hiding my emotions and what I'm thinking. I can be read. And so the problem is if I go to sit down and play Settlers of Catan with somebody, which is fine, you know, for people at that level of the hobby, and that's what they want to do. But if I sit down to do that because they brought it to the game store and that's all they want to play, I'm going to, even with the best of intentions, make them have a bad time because I'm going to be checking the clock. I'm going to be bored. I'm going to be sighing constantly. And that's because I'm playing a game I don't find to be entertaining. And so I can't, I don't know, for me, I can't hide that. I can't just suck it up and deal with it real easy because I'm hoping other people really enjoy that. But that's part of what I come to game night for, is to play the kind of games that I can't play with my family or that they're not interested in playing. So when you ask me to sit down and play a Ticket to Ride at the gaming store, I'm usually, no, I'm going to pass. And it's not because I think there's anything wrong with playing that, but that's not what I'm there for. You know, there's kind of this attitude of, well, we all got to be growing the hobby. And my attitude is, no, not really. We don't. I mean, I would love to grow my end of the hobby. I'm like, when you want to play an 18xx for the first time, or a heavyweight Euro or an economic game, hell yeah, let's do it. I'll throw down. I'll teach you. And I do a pretty good job with that. And a lot of people have enjoyed learning those kinds of games from me, but I'm just not going to sit down and play Sushi Go. I'm not going to have a good time. And when I'm not having a good time, that is going to be easily noticed by everyone around me, and it's going to make them not have a good time. And that's just lose-lose for everyone.
And I get that. Like, here's the thing. I am okay with you jumping in and going, I'm not going to have fun with that game. Mm-hmm. I get that. I'm not expecting to sit down and play a 3-hour game of Firefly and go, Andy, come, join us.
That would be bad.
The reason why it would be bad, though, by what you just said, though, is the reason why I know not to invite you, is because I know you will do nothing but crap on that game for the next 20 minutes in front of the people that are here to enjoy that game, for people who know that. And I think that, and once again, I'm not trying to call you out in any way, Andy. You know, I love you to death, and I would never just sit here and poop on you. But there are people out there that will go, no, you are a terrible person for like playing that game. That is a bad game. There are better games out there. Are there better games than Firefly? Absolutely. Firefly's still my favorite game. You want to know why? I have fun playing it.
Yeah, that's all that's required. Absolutely.
You don't have fun playing it, and I am super cool with that. And I want you to know that I am okay with playing the 18xx's with you as well. Yeah, I know there are some games to not invite you to, and some games to invite you to.
Jonathan, you just mentioned another difficulty when it comes to elitism. Almost always when you're in a situation with one person that's very elitist and one person who's not so elitist, the elitist always picks what gets played or what gets consumed.
That's probably
because
true.
If the not elitist picks, the elitist will just shit on it. I'm pardon my friend. And that's not fun for the non-elitist. You feel like, well, then you just get a pick. You just lose basically the non-elitist loses the option to pick if they hang out with an elitist. Because the elitist is very likely to just be extremely negative towards whatever the non-elitist picks.
Yeah.
Now, for someone,
and a lot of it kind of just comes off with them being childish.
To me,
it's really like, don't play my game, then I'm not going to play with you. Bye.
To me, it's the feeling of, I feel this way a lot of times when I go to game nights. I'm willing to play most games that people put on the table because I know almost everyone there is more, I guess, elitist than I am. I'm willing to play Monopoly Gamer. I just reviewed it on here. I mean, I'll play anything. Mm-hmm. And it's fine with me. But what that means is, in the end, that means I rarely actually get to pick a game. It's extremely rare when I pick a game and put it on the table. The only time when that happens a lot, I felt, is when someone has said, you have this game, can you bring it and teach it?
Yeah, that was like last night? Yeah, Trent was coming to game night, and I think just the fact that he was asked to bring a game and play his own game gave him such butterflies in his stomach that he had to go home.
No, I was not feeling well a game night. I tried.
No, he really wasn't feeling well. It was just, but yeah, it's just to try to connect those two. It's like, because last night we were gonna play Time of Crisis, and it just did. Yeah, it didn't happen. It was a different type of crisis, and I hope that you're better now, Trent. Right?
I feel a lot better. Yes.
Okay.
But that often happens at game night, and that's true. Like if I went and drank coffee at David's house, I would not pick the coffee. If I went and drank, I wouldn't. He would probably almost.
I don't pick the coffee with David either. I like the coffee that David picks.
David is very much an elitist. That's just the point.
He's an expert, man. He knows what he's talking about. Like, I hated coffee until I talked to this guy. And I'm not just like, I don't know anything about coffee.
Actually tastes like.
I've got coffee in my fridge right now that I love. Like 2 months ago, or maybe 6 months. I don't know. 2 months ago, I would have been buying these little cans from Target that were all extremely expensive because that was like the only coffee I knew of. And now I've got like the system that I'm actually making my own coffee, and I love that coffee. And I wonder, like, when somebody talks about liking coffee, I think especially it was talked. I think that Phil Heckman, maybe, yeah, Phil. By the way, hi. There's Ray, Phil. We got Daniel, we got Adam. Dude, you guys have got some awesome comments. But what Phil said was something about, like, when people ask you, do you want coffee? They're saying, hey, you want to engage in a normal social interaction with me. It's not like, what kind of beans are you serving? It's like this is just the coffee house culture. And I think in a lot of ways, like when somebody invites you to a game, regardless of what game it is, they're saying, do you enjoy company? Would you like to spend like this amount of time just being social creatures and engaging in this discussion? And I think the question or the answer to that is, can we, as people who are quote unquote expert, elitists in board games, and I think all of us are to a certain extent, because even you, John, say like, you're not going to play Life, right? Life is a terrible game.
No. People who play Life are terrible people.
Okay, so to a certain extent, everybody who's on this podcast, I would even say anybody who's consuming this media probably has some lines that they're going to draw in the sand about what they're willing to play, because we just, we are looking for something more. It's like, for example, when my wife loves to watch reality TV, like right now, our wives are upstairs and they could be watching like The Bachelorette or something. And am I ever going to be good company to my wife watching The Bachelorette? No, because I'm going to sit there. Like, my wife will not watch any of these shows with me because she's been through that experience of me just sitting there and being like constantly sighing and like.
Yeah, that's what I do if I don't like a game or a situation.
Mm-hmm. And but what's the answer, guys? What is the answer? What, like, I am a horrible person, right, John?
Well, of course, Joe.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
No,
that means
you're
so
not.
much to me, John. Thank you. I mean, like, what's the answer though?
I mean,
what is it? We got Dr. Phil here in our chat that can maybe tell us. We got maybe yes, no more Bachelor. Yes, I'm with you on this, Ray. It's a Bachelorette right now.
Honestly,
but yeah.
The honest truth is, find people whose tastes match your own and just play with them.
Yeah, unfortunately, that tends to be it.
But the thing is, though, I encourage people to branch out. Now, we have all been playing board games for some time now. I'd like to say you got 2 or 3 years on your belt. You've played a lot of games, and you've played a lot of different types of games, and you now know your style. But I still encourage you, because some people will stick their nose up at a game because, like, they see the box and they go, ho, theme, whoo. I want you to at least play it, try it, and then go, meh, not for me. Mm-hmm. And that's not elitism. That's you trying something. Like, Andy, you don't know. I mean, this is you. You are the guy who introduced me to Bunny Bunny Moose Moose.
Oh, yeah.
Your tastes 2-3 years ago weren't 18XX and Arkwright. You are not the masochist that you call yourself now.
Yep.
You had a different style at that point. You switched over to this by playing different games. That's awesome. But you've since then kind of go, well, now let's not look at those other ones now. Like, I'll look at them, I'll watch you play them, and then go, that doesn't look like it's for me. I want you to at least try. I want everybody to at least look at themselves and go, yes, Joe, you're right. We all have some elitism in ourselves. We all do. You're right. Life is a stupid game. But the people that play Life aren't stupid. I was joking.
Well, I thought you were making a really deep statement when you said life is a stupid game. It actually took me a second to connect the dots and think, oh, no, he's talking about the game of life, not life is a stupid game. I was like, hold on. No. He's talking about the game life.
But I want everybody to kind of, that's kind of my point of this topic, is I want everybody to kind of look inside and go, how elitist am I being? Am I being to the point where I'm coming off as a troll, not even on the internet, but even at your own communities? I want you to go, wow, did what I just say kind of come off snobbish about a hobby where the goal is to have fun? Because I don't care how you cut it. Yes, fun is subjective, but it's still fun. Andy, you play those brain hurts games, those games that put me in literal depressions. But do you have fun when you play them?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's the point. I want people to have fun, and I want people to at least look at other people having fun. And if you think about it like that, if you just go, oh, they're having fun, they're having a good time, this is putting a smile on their face. Who am I to try to stop that? That's what elitism is. That's you stopping happy. Not cool.
Yep. And I think, you know, to really think about elitism is in every segment of the hobby, or even really every segment of life, you're going to have people who act elitist. A great example on my end of the hobby was one of the guys I met at HeavyCon and played several 18xx games with, went on to the Yahoo group that the 18xxers use, and he wrote like this little op-ed piece kind of thing, you know, describing how great of a time he had. And, you know, he's like, we had a lot of hardcore 18xx players there at HeavyCon. And then like this guy jumped on, he's like, was so-and-so there? Was so-and-so there? Where were the real hardcore people? Like,
that was the most elitist thing I've ever read.
Oh God, it was bad. So I mean, you don't escape it. I think it anyway, and a lot of it, I think, you know, someone who's being like that is either, you know, I guess they're just being a crappy person when you get down to it.
That's absolutely it, and just. Crappy people are crappy people. And we can turn elitism into just that.
I don't think that crappy people are crappy people, though. I think that everybody has the tendency to be crappy people if we're not considerate of what other people are thinking. I think I've been maybe one of the most guilty people about that, especially in the first stages of where I was at in this podcast. I mean, like, it's so, I mean, having been made to feel, I'm sure the same way that I was making people feel at one time, has been a really eye-opening experience. And I think that's been really, really like helpful to me. I think though, what I really get out of this discussion is Trent said, find people who like to do the same things you like to do. And that means that my wife likes to watch The Bachelor and I don't like to watch The Bachelor. Well, tomorrow is our 5th anniversary, was our 5th anniversary.
Done.
Hello?
I'm joking. It's okay to not like the things everybody else likes. It's okay to try. What I think, though, is the real challenge is to find that intersection. Find the things you both like. For example, tomorrow for our anniversary, what are me and my wife doing? We're going to go and we're going to watch that movie, The Big Sick. Right? It's supposed to be really, really good. It's one that's got these high reviews, and it's got like, it's a Judd Apatow comedy, kind of like, you know, Knocked Up or whatever. And it's supposed to be really, really, really good, based on a true story. I mean, it's got a lot of things in it that I might not go. I would never go see this movie if it wasn't for our relationship. It's like you find that sort of common ground. And I think that there exists common ground between pretty much everybody. I think you can find it. And I think that like where I challenge that is to find that common ground, to be looking for it. Because like we're going to go first to go play mini golf, which my wife would never be caught dead on a mini golf course if it wasn't being with me. And then we're going to go see like a kind of romantic comedy. That's what we can, you know, like it's our common ground.
Sure. But that's what I'm saying is, I mean, you went and did something you didn't like. She went to go do something she probably wasn't going to like, or I mean, probably on both sides. But I mean, you tried something. You didn't just go, oh, I mean, Sandra Bullock's in this? No. No, this is going to be obviously something I'm not going to sit here and watch with you because no.
Sorry, I don't think I could choke down Folgers. No matter how difficult the person
and I don't
created
think
it for me.
Anybody that plays this podcast or who listens to this podcast would ever be like, sure, I'll jump right into that game of Monopoly with house rules. I don't, like the endless game. I think, Andy, the thing is, you have to do that so much. Like you have non-negotiables where you have to do that. And I think that some of the reason that you're like, this is the only time that you could get out of that. I think that's one of the reasons that, the less time that you get, or I guess the more time that you have to spend compromising, the less time that you end up feeling like you can do that in these social interactions. For example, I feel like a lot of the times I hate interactions with adults in general because all of my patience is used up on like 14-year-olds. And I expect no, you can take care of yourself. And that's not always the case. So anyway, I just think, find the common ground and don't ever quit. And Phil
just
says he will never see Power Rangers ever.
Yes, Phil knows that he's a terrible person.
Okay. Who's Phil? Who's Phil, John?
Phil is one of the regulars at the store.
Okay.
I think, to kind of finish off with the statement, kind of in what you were talking about, Joe, is it's okay to not like certain games, but be honest about it. Be upfront about it, but be kind about it.
Kind, exactly. There you go, man. Absolutely.
You just be like, those aren't for me, and if I play it with you, I'm gonna make you have a bad time, probably, which is no fault of yours. It's just I can't play those kinds of games and have a fun. Everybody gets their fun differently, but you can be decent about it.
Yeah.
You just be like, mini golf isn't for me.
And I only like to play with wood.
Yeah.
Plastic sucks.
And that's the minimum I'm asking is, if you don't want to play it, be decent about it. That's it. Just be like, no, I'm good, thanks.
And I also think that sometimes what happens is that you get into what you think is a circle of people that are okay with your elitism and share your same thoughts. And it kind of puts, it almost gets on that borderline, like you're being almost, I don't know. I don't want to sound too hyper political correct here, but you're being a little bit like, I feel like it's racist to use the word racist, but I almost think that, when you don't respect others' divergent opinions, that's like you're being
Elitism?
ignorant. You're ignorant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No. So I think
that's any final thoughts, John, about elitism?
Yeah. Don't be a D-bag.
Trent?
Be an elitist, just be a nice elitist.
Yeah, be kind about it. You don't you can feel things and you don't always have to say them, especially if it's going to crush somebody's dream. So, it's one thing when you're friends with them, like you can say a lot, like everybody who I've met from North Dakota has red hair.
That is true.
Okay.
That happens. There's a
but I said that to you in like the very first interaction we ever had. That's totally not okay. Anyway, guys, we're going to go ahead and hype some board games. And we're going to go ahead and kick it off with Andy. Tell us about the game that I referred to during our actual topic.
Yeah, so I'm going to hype Time of Crisis. I just got a copy of this in a couple days ago, and I know Trent has one. For me, one of the things that can often be sort of a turnoff for me is a game that's just about deck building, but I do like deck building as a support mechanic in other things. For example, one of my favorite, medium weight games is Rococo that uses some deck building. And Time of Crisis seems to do a similar thing where there is deck building, but it's deck building as attached to a light war game. So you use your deck to change the board state, hire governors, build military, affect other people. And also, from the way I've read the rules and some of the things I've seen, it sounds like there's going to be just loads of interaction in this game. So there's going to be a lot of, knees and elbows. So I'm going to be using that deck to screw over your country and take it over. You're going to come back at me using your deck to do a similar thing in a different way, maybe. So it looks like the deck affects the map, which affects the interactions, which is something I'm very fascinated about. I've heard a lot of people that aren't major fans of deck building as a mechanic say this game is just utterly brilliant. And that makes me very intrigued.
Me as well, Andy. I'm super pumped. I actually just got my copy in the mail from Game Surplus. Really pumped to get Time of Crisis and try to get that one played. And I think, Trent, you share that enthusiasm.
Yes, very much so.
All right, let's go ahead and move on talking about Jon. Why don't you give us a little bit of the latest installment in the good old Arkham Horror LCG?
Sure. So this month they just finished up the current Dunwich Legacy campaign.
So good.
Oh, dude, so good. Like, that's the only reason.
Arkham Horror?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
The only reason why I'm hyping the next campaign is because I'm ready for more. I went through the campaign with a deck that I soloed. I did so good with this deck, and it was one of those ones that I homebrewed and everything until the last Mythos pack, and it stomped me so hard into the ground. Like, it was disgusting how hard it was. And
yes, it's amazing. I love it. It's a fantastic way to finish this.
Oh, it was so beautiful. And I'm ready for the next expansion or the next campaign. I'm ready to see what new encounter cards we're going to get. I'm just ready for this game. So the next expansion is going to be the Path to Carcosa. I'm excited. I'm ready to see more investigators. I'm ready to see what new cards, because I think Trent had made mention, like what they did with, I think it was Lord of the Rings, where, they gave you the first one, but it's only going to go nuts from here.
Yeah,
and
the first cycle in Lord of the Rings, the card game, was it didn't really push mechanics very hard. It really didn't. But later on, it gets just crazy, some of the stuff they do.
And I'm hoping and I can almost guarantee you that's what they're going to do with Arkham Horror. So I love this game so much. I'm currently playing it. I just played it 3-player today. I'm going to be playing it 2-player tomorrow, and I'm still homebrewing decks in my downtime. So, I mean, I love this game, and I'm ready for more. So, looking forward.
Oh, thanks, Jon. Yeah, Arkham Horror. David? You also are playing this, or are you up to date? Or
no? I'm 3 into the base game campaign. So I will be hyped for it once I get into Dunwich and pass by that. But I'm enjoying the base game so far.
Well, the Dunwich Horror is probably my second favorite H.P. Lovecraft story.
It's a good one.
So
the second cycle seems to be based on the King in Yellow.
The King in Yellow is actually that's not even by H.P. Lovecraft. That's actually by a different author.
Yeah, they incorporate that a lot into Lovecraft mythology because
because it's so bizarre. Yeah, which is interesting. I totally think it belongs there. Anyway, that is Arkham Horror LCG. We'll go ahead now, and I'm going to get 10 points here just for hyping the newest Feld game. It's called Merlin. Looks like a heavy game that's got some dice in it. Looks like maybe one of his more complex games is what I'm hoping for. I tend to really prefer the more involved, but I don't know. Like, I just feel like the best Feld ever is still Castles of Burgundy, and maybe I'll be able to respect Merlin quite a bit because there's only one Feld, and you can never argue with that. Though I do think that the designers of like Zangwo and Nippon maybe have a little bit of his DNA in them. But anyway, I'm excited to see how Merlin compares to other Feld games and other Euro games. And now moving quite along to David, you're right here with me. Why don't we talk about the Kickstarter game that you were going to talk about when you were here for that last episode that never happened?
Instead, Kickstarter game that finished up Kickstarter a while, but they are going to retail. It's one of the ones that should be in retail. It's called Archmage, and it's a game where there's a lot of interconnected systems. It's hard to describe. You've got a main guy on a board. He moves around, and where he finishes his movement is actually an action that you can take, kind of like I heard Istanbul, although I haven't played it. before.
Uh-huh.
Beyond that, you have your own player board, and on that player board, you're manipulating other smaller apprentices, they call them.
Which sounds like Istanbul, where you leave these little, well, I don't know.
On the main board, you leave them there to kind of, it's an area control there. The one that your main guy ends on is your action, and then you've got your own player board that has these different circles, kind of like the Venn diagram, and as you move them around, it gives you access to different spells. Everybody has the same spell book, but depending on where your guys are at, those are the ones that are unlocked to you, and then you can play them from there. The area control also has resources, and you're using those resources to both get your apprentices on your player board to get access to the spells, as well as actually playing them. And then there's points for the spells themselves, points for the area control game. And it all just sounds really interesting to me, all those interconnected systems and just the theme and whatnot. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it definitely seems like there's going to be quite a bit of structure there, which is what interests me. I always like it when they try to add quite a bit of structure to a theme that sounds, like that has quite a bit of potential for some interesting interactions. All right, and now let's all round it off with Trent, who I guess I chose his hype, if that's what I'm seeing right. I put in, Trent has been talking about being excited about a game that's coming in, and me and David had to do a little bit of detective work to get my copy because it said that it was delivered at 1:02 p.m. and I'm like checking my door like it's not here. We just moved and it was shipped to my old address, so we had to then awkwardly knock on the door, and he's like, "Yeah, I left you a voicemail," and I was like, "I hope you're liking the house." And he's like, "Yeah, it's all right," and I was just like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna go."
Well, Joe, for your old house, I think that's about the most ringing endorsement you were going to get out of it.
Whoa. Wow, yeah.
Well,
thanks, Andy.
To be fair, we were all poor teachers. We got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, I guess. I liked that house, man. There's still other things I like about that house. It had really pretty floors. Anyway, it was an interesting house, and I've learned a lot of the reasons I'm not living there anymore, which is probably why he answered like that. But yeah, this really cute little 3-year-old. Anyway, Trent, I'm not hyping this game. You are. Are you actually going to hype Mars Robinson Crusoe?
No, you can go ahead and hype it for me.
Hi guys. I'm going to tell you about how great the Mars version of Robinson Crusoe is.
Go deeper.
It's
so hyped that we got it from your old house.
Yeah.
Deeper.
I got this copy of the game on Thursday because this is Trent, and I would like to tell everybody what I'm most looking forward to is playing this game with my wife and my kids, and I can't do this, Trent. I don't know, man. I'm not gonna make fun of you. And I can't do low voices.
I got this,
just
this game that's like Martian Robinson Crusoe, and I'm looking forward to playing it with my wife and my kids.
Oh, God.
Well played, Trent. Well played.
I didn't have anything creative or working, so I was just like, man, then that's it. So
now Nasi Trevicek will never send us a review copy of anything.
Oh man, I'm pumped for that game, and I hope you are too, Trent.
I am.
All right, so guys, that's been this week's episode of The Good, The Bored, and The Ugly. I'm your host, Joe Ixalan, joined by
Jonathan Pierce,
Andrew Dennison,
Trent Ham,
and especially joining us tonight,
David Sandquist.
Also, thank you to all of the wonderful participation we've been getting. We've been seeing from Daniel. We saw Garth, Joe. We got Phil, who I had no idea was apparently a little like figure that stands on Jonathan's shoulder and like torments him, stabs him with pitchforks because I thought he seemed like a cool guy. Anyway, we got Ryan joined us. Adam, so awesome to see you guys. I hope I got everybody. I tried. If I didn't, thank you for joining us. This has been such a great week to hear from you guys, so much from you guys. We hope you guys have a great week of gaming, and catch us next week here on The Good, The Bored, and The Ugly.
chess hand.